Trying to get a copy, we're trying to find a copy for me. Okay, I believe we are starting. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Lahul mulk wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. We say to you in the greeting of Muslims all around the world, Assalamu alaikum. This means may God's peace be with you. Anytime you hear that, it's customary to return the same. So even if you don't know it, if someone says Assalamu alaikum to you, if you say Assalamu alaikum back to you, hey, you've done your duty. Everybody's wishing one another God's peace. The purpose of our meeting today is to cover something that's very important, that our holy book, Al-Quran, tells us that each Muslim, which means one who submits to the will of God, each practitioner of the religion of Al-Islam, it is incumbent on all of us to bury the deceased. So it's every Muslim's obligation to bury the deceased. This is a process that is spiritual. I liken it to sort of to the birth, Only God gives life and only God takes it away. So in this processing of the body as it's been taken away from us, it's quite spiritual. The Holy Quran tells us that every soul shall experience death. Only God gives life and only God takes life. So this is something that's a natural process. Yes, it's something that brings sadness. It's something that brings about tears. And it's okay for us to cry when we're sad, whether it's because someone has left this world or whether it's because something else has happened. There are good things that make us cry too. Allah, the Creator, has given us the ability for tears, so that right there should let us know that crying is okay. Being Muslim, we try to, in a lot of different religions, because Allah says in the Quran, He created us nations and tribes different. Not so that we could be better than one another, but so that we could come to know each other. And as such, we do things in different ways. Even within the religion of Al-Islam, people come from different countries, different ways of life. We pray pretty much the same, but we do some things differently when we pray. Everyone says Allahu Akbar. Some of us put our hands here, some here. Some even leave your hands at the side, but we're all still praying. And I say this to say that when we prepare our body, we might be with people from other countries that might do it a little bit different from us, but that's okay. So when we do it together, we have one person who will lead and the others will follow. It's imperative that more people learn how to do this, because when we're doing this process, this is not something that we do every day. And because we don't do it every day, one of the first things we're going to show you is we make, when we're making prayer, we have to be in a state of cleanliness. So one of the things we do is wudu, where we wash our hands, we wash our mouth, our nose, our face, we wet our head, we wash our arms and our feet, basically. We have to do this for the deceased body as well. But when we do it for ourselves, we're on automatic pilot, right? Am I right, sisters? Mm-hmm. So, but when we do it for someone else, we have to think about it. So it's necessary for more people to know this process because it takes a team to do this. And oftentimes when there is a team, the one person that is responsible for being in the lead, they might unintentionally forget and want to clean the nose before they clean the mouth, or clean the left hand before they clean the right hand. And it's okay to be reminded when those things happen. But ultimately, there's one person that's pretty much in charge of leading the process. No matter how long we live, death is still the ultimate fate for all of us. So we must have taqwa. Taqwa means the proper reverence and respect for our Creator. We are to act righteously and obedient, following the commands of Allah in order to be successful in this life, to become inheritors of the paradise, which we call Jannah. There is an obligation on believers in association with the Al-Quran to always be of the highest of morals. One of the words that's associated with that is adab. And adab means, it's translated in a lot of different ways, but basically it means the righteously guided manners. So there's adab in everything we do. There's an adab when we make salat, as I mentioned. We make sure we're clean. When we do the prayer, we do it in a certain way. That's adab. When someone gives you the greeting, assalamu alaikum, it is adab to return the same greeting. And if you know how, you can return a better greeting. So I'll say, assalamu alaikum. And you'll say,
wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So there are different things, and you'll say,
Wa alaikum assalam.
And the highest response, or one of the highest, because I think it could probably go on, for a long time, is assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. May not only the peace of God be with you, but the blessings and mercy of God be with you as well. So in Islam, there are rules of etiquette. You can also say adab is etiquette, Islamic etiquette. And we always want to try to do things in the best means possible, knowing that we are human and that we make mistakes, and there's only one perfect being, and we all know who that is, our Creator. But even given that, we still try hard to do what's right, and know that when we forget and fall into error, God's mercy outweighs His wrath. Sleep is said to be the twin brother of death. Our souls are released from the flesh and is not returned without God's permission. Our bodily life and death are not the whole story of our existence. It's a fascinating enigma. Death is a surrender of our physical life. So, for the sake of time, we're going to do the demonstration because this is what's very important. I want to express to you first, and I'll probably say this more than one time today, it is so necessary that more people, especially young people, learn how to do this process. Because as the older people, like my friends here, I'm not old, but the older people are not going to be around forever, right?
Yeah.
So we need the younger people to learn how to do this. Otherwise, we'll get to a point where we're left at the mercy of others. And we also always want to be able to take care of our families and our friends with the love and regard that we have for them. So when we go through this process, and in the Muslims' everyday life, one thing that is most important is prayer. We pray 5 times a day. Before we start anything, we should pray. In society, most people will say a prayer. We just had Thanksgiving. So they will say a big prayer, over the table, over food. We try to pray for everything we do. And pretty much when we meet one another, we say, Assalamu alaikum, that's a prayer as well. So when we start this process, we started with prayer. And sisters, if I forget anything important, please remind me. Okay, so as we get started, we gather people, sisters around the table. Sisters take care of sisters, and brothers take care of brothers. Al-Quran, Allah tells us through the revelation he sent through Prophet Muhammad, to Prophet Muhammad through the angel Jibril, that a husband can wash his wife and a wife can wash her husband. Otherwise, only females take care of a female body and only males take care of a male body. But as a husband and a wife, you do have the right to prepare your wife or husband for burial. So that's why, too, it's necessary for your family to know how to do this. Someone who's real dear to this community and taught most of us Arabic, passed away several years ago. May Allah overlook his faults, forgive his sins, and grant him the paradise. When he passed away, he had 10 children, at least 10 children, and most of them boys. But they got together and they prepared, they washed and shrouded their father. The girls did not, but the wives and the mother and the sons did. The wives recited Quran while the sons did the washing and preparation. So this is another reason why it's very important. You never know when you might be in a circumstance. Here in Houston, and right now all over the world, people are having tsunamis in the middle of the desert. We don't know when a travesty might hit you. And you might be the only one that can prepare your loved one's body to be interred into the earth, or however you can take care of them until the water subsides or until the winds stop blowing or whatever. So these things are of ultimate importance to all of us, just as prayer is important to all of us. So when we gather, ideally, I like to have 6 people to do this process because it makes it go faster, it makes it easier. I like to have a couple of women on each side of the table because during the process, we keep the body covered, everything except the face. We don't ever look upon the private parts of the body unless for some reason it becomes necessary. Why would it become necessary? Let's say the body was autopsied, which we try to stay away from autopsying unless it's necessary according to the laws of the land that govern us. In those cases, we might want to take a peek and see if blood is gushing, so that we'll do a special process to try to stop that blood from gushing, okay? But other than that, the body is covered throughout the process. The people on either side of the table are there so that they can hold the cover up over the table in such a way that it hangs down and we can work under the cover without anybody being able to see the body. So we just work around underneath that cover. So having others around us to do that makes that easier. Also, we're going to treat this body as if it still has life in it, because nobody's ever died and came back and said, when I was laying there. So we want to give the utmost respect to the deceased, and we're going to treat her as if she still has life in her body. Assalamu alaikum. So I call her sister. So what we do first, we've already determined, sometimes the family determines who they want the person who is leading this process called ghusl to be. Sometimes the deceased themselves will say, well, I want sister such and such to be responsible for washing and shrouding me or whatever. Sometimes it just falls on the person that has the most knowledge. We just have to get it done. And ideally, we want to get it done within 3 days of the body being left without life. So, given that, we first want to say a prayer as we're getting started. So we will all gather together and we'll stand around the body and we'll make a dua. The first thing we'll do is recite the first chapter of Al-Quran, which is one of the things I recited when I greeted you today. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Before I start the dua, is everyone in a state of wudu? Because what we want to do is make sure we're in a state of purity before we start this process. We also want to go back into a state of purity whenever we get home after this process. So in making the prayer, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Ameen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Oh Allah, thank you for presenting us with this honor of providing ghusl for sisters return to you. We ask that you bless us to do what is best in honor of her and in submission to you. We ask, oh Allah, that you guide us, you guide our thoughts, you guide our actions for the benefit of the soul. We ask that, and I remind everyone here that what we're doing is something sacred. If there's anything that you witness here that might be untoward, it does not leave this room. If you see something good, such as the smile that often comes over the face of the deceased, share that. Otherwise, everything that happens in this room stays in this room. The lead washer in this situation is going to be Sister Sakina. As we go through this, we might be changing positions, but I remind each of us that none of us is perfect alone, and if we see something that we know is wrong or out of order, please gently say that. There will be no frivolous talk, and the only conversation we want to have is the recitation of the holy book, du'as, or things of that nature. Oh Allah, please guide us, protect us, and bless the soul of Sister. Ameen. Okay, so now that we've gotten started, the first thing we want to do is get the shroud torn. We do not embalm in Al-Islam. Just as a body comes out the womb natural, we prepare the body in as natural a state as possible to return. So in doing that, we use fabric, which is natural fabric. It's Muslim. It's supposed to be undyed, and we don't stitch it, we don't cut it, we tear it. To be perfectly honest, undyed Muslim is not pure white. It has a yellowish tinge to it. Some people like white because they feel that white is best. But no, if you ever see a shrouded material and it's yellowish, that's okay. That means it has not been bleached. So what we do is we start with the outer cover. Please come help. We start with the outer cover. There's a difference in the shroud diagram, please, brother. There's a difference in the shroud for the man and for the woman. A man's shroud is 3 pieces, as you can see here. There's an outer wrap. That's number C. That's the last part that's going to be covered over the body, which is known as the mayat. There is shirt, and the shirt for the man is a long shirt that goes from his shoulders to his ankle. And then B here is the lower garment. And then there are 3 pieces of fabric that we use to tie at the top, at the feet, and around the waist of the individual. We have a woman here that we're going to process today. So the next diagram, we're just gonna show you the man's diagram laying on a table so that you can see the same pieces of cloth are there, but that's just another visual of how it's laid out. Continue, please. And when we go through this process, as you'll see, the final cloth is going to be wrapped around the body, the right side first, the left side first, and then the right side. When we stand for prayer, we always have the right hand over the left hand. So whenever we are preparing this shroud, we're gonna always put the right side over the left side, okay? The woman's shroud is different. It's made up of 5 parts. And I say that because we're special. The woman also has the wrapping cloth. That is the first one that's gonna go on the table. It's the last one that's gonna go around her body. The next one is a breast wrapper, which goes from her chest to her knees. The third one is, and this is going in reverse order, the third one is a winding sheet. It goes from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet. And then underneath that, there's like the men have a shirt, the women have a dress, and we'll show you how that's done. And the woman also has a scarf over her head, okay? So the first thing we're gonna do is the outer wrap. So what we like to do is take a piece of the shroud. We don't cut, but we just clip it to make tearing it easier. And then we take this and we use this to measure the length of the woman so we know how much of a shroud, how long to tie. So that's pretty much the whole length of this. And then we want to add a few inches to each end so that we'll have enough to tie above the head and below the feet. And Sakina, if you can grab the scissors. Okay, so we want to do this. And then, we're not going to do that there.
Doubling it?
Yes.
Okay.
And then so that we have enough fabric to go above the head and the feet, we're going to add about another half of that. So we'll take this and we'll put this on the table because this is going to be the outer wrapper, the winding sheet for sister. And we want to make sure this drapes evenly on each side and each end so that when we put it on her, it's placed on her evenly as well. So do we have an equal part hanging over each side?
That's it.
This side is longer, pull some over.
Oh. How is that? I can take them.
Yeah.
Let's bring a little bit more.
Okay, so this is the, we're gonna leave this diagram up. This is the outer wrap. So the next one that we're gonna do is the breast wrapper.
You're welcome.
And the breast wrapper is going to go from below the neck and down to the knee. So we need the measuring tape. So measure from just above the breastbone down to her knee,
Exactly to the knee?
just to the knee, yeah. So we will cut that length. Okay. Very easy. Once you do it a couple of times, it's, okay, let's get this positioned on here correctly, sisters, so that everything is even on each end. Okay. So we're gonna put this right in the middle. Is there an even, is it even on that side hanging? Okay. So if her head's gonna be here, this should be right where it should go in the center. Top of her head here, her shoulders. Okay. All right, and then the next part is going to be the wrapping cloth. So this one is just gonna go from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet. We've already measured that, so we don't need to add any additional length on there. We do want to wear gloves.
Can't see.
We also want to wear a mask. And in the real situation, we also want to make sure we have on protective gear for our clothing. Like an apron, such as you see in the hospital, the nurses wearing, so that all of our clothing can be protected. So let's take this and put this right in the center of the table. In the handouts,
Is it the same?
there will be, you'll find a reference, Quranic reference to the areas in which the Quran speaks of death. And also, you'll find a reference to the sound hadith that also refers to death. This process we learn from the Prophet through the Sunnah, or the ways of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but you won't find it written in the Quran. So the next one that we're going to tear is going to be the dress. So the dress goes from sisters, or if it's a man, it goes from the neck to the bottom of the feet. So pretty much it's going to be the same, almost the same.
Isn't it?
Yeah. So this is going to be doubled because it's going to go over her head. Oftentimes when we do this, we're doing this on the same day of the burial, probably hours before the burial.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not covering the head, right? It's from the neck.
It's going to from the neck. No. Let's put that. Rip it. No, we made a mistake. I made a mistake.
Okay.
This is supposed to be doubled.
Okay.
So
Let me get my spread.
Because what we're gonna do is fold this in half and cut an opening for the head. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, bring it over. This one.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this and we're going to bring that over, drop your end, and then bring this, no, do that, yeah, bring that over. And you can put it right there. Okay, thank you. And as you can see, it tears very easily. It's not rocket science, although I may make it look that way sometimes. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa ilayhil hamd. I'd like to let people know that this is the way that our prophet Isa, known in English as Jesus, was buried. He was washed and shrouded. So once we have this piece of fabric folded in half so that it goes over her back and her front, we're going to fold it in half again so that we can cut a little corner off of there, the corner. So that we can make an opening for her head, or for his head if we're doing a brother. So then we take the scissors and we make a little snip. Just a snip there. No. Right there on the fold. We make a snip on the fold on either side, okay? And then we tear that to make an opening large enough for her hair to go through. So we'll take this and we'll put this on the table, because once we have her cleaned, let's make sure it's even on both sides. Once we have her cleaned, we're going to transfer her body to the shroud. So you can help me roll this. So what we do here is we take this one and we roll it back. Just keep going. And we just roll it up to the opening for the head. We try not to tear that too big, but if we do, mashallah, Allah is merciful. All right, and then from that point, we have 1, 2, 3. Do we have 3 or 4?
The breast piece is 4.
4 pieces here. The 5th piece is going to be her head covering. So from this point, she's already now, ideally, if we have enough sisters, while a group is working on washing her, another group will be putting the shroud together, okay? So at this point, there are some state-of-the-art here in Houston. We are blessed to have 3 Islamic funeral homes. They're state-of-the-art. They were built from the ground up. They're nice and clean. And the hose that we use for the water comes from above. So the nice temperatured water is run through that. In this washing process, we also have a bucket. In the bucket is going to be the soapy water that we use for the first washings. We wash and rinse an uneven number of times. Let's say that for whatever reasons we have to rush. We have to wash the body at least 1 time, but we wash it until it's clean, an odd number of times. So that's going to be 1, if time allows 3 or 5 or 7. The most number of times that we will wash the deceased and rinse them is 11 times. 11 is the maximum, okay? So for the sake of time today, we're going to do 1 washing. And you can just envision that it's 3 or 5 or 7. So we start with a bucket of warm water. We want it to be a comfortable temperature.
Do you want to mention pushing the stomach to get the waist down?
Yes, one of the first things we're going to do, thank you, before we do the washing, we want to make sure that the water and everything is in the bucket and it's a good temperature. But when we do wudu at home, what do we do first? We go to eliminate, right? And once you eliminate, then you do your wudu or your ghusl process. Let's say something happens and you end up having to eliminate again before you finish your ghusl process or your wudu process, then you have to go back and wash again. So in the case of sister, we're going to do that for her. So in order to remove waste from her body, what we're going to do is we're going to touch her stomach and we're just going to press. So what we're going to do is we're going to press the stomach from the top of the stomach, and we're going to go down, and we're going to use a massaging motion to do that on the body. So we're going to start at the top. I want to step to the side a little bit, and we're going to go down. But my hand's going to be right on her body, massaging and pushing, massaging and pushing down. If there's anything, sometimes this person has been in the hospital sick for a long time and they have not had any whole foods. So there may not be much in the intestines, and the situation could be otherwise where the intestines are full. So you just have to keep pressing, and you get your hose, and you'll smell before you see. Generally, gas that comes out will have an odor, and the excrement will have an odor. So this table that is at the funeral home, it's stainless steel, and there's a groove all around the table, and there's a spigot underneath the end of the table, a hole. So when you're washing, the water gathers in the crevice around, and then it goes into a hose into the floor, so it's continuously flowing out. So we take the hose, we come down, and we use the hose to wash away fecal matter. And we keep doing that until we smell no more. And then we take the towel, and this is when we start washing. We will take the towel and we will wash that area and make sure it comes back clean with no fecal matter. Now, as time goes on, and the body is generally cold when you first get it because it's been refrigerated. So I like to run warm water over the body to heat it up. And all the time, we're treating her humanely, as if she still has life in her. So we are doing this continuously until we don't see any more matter. We're going to wipe with a towel until there's no fecal matter. We all have on gloves, and when the towel comes out clean, each time we take this and we throw it away, we're not gonna reuse it, okay? So after that, we're ready to do wudu, because we've cleaned the private parts. You always start with clean private parts and make sure the elimination is happening. Now, in the process, as the body warms down, it relaxes, it loses its stiffness, more might come out. So you have to be diligent to watch for that. So the next thing we're gonna do with clean soapy water is we're going to have our, Sakina, you're the washer, so would you come to the head?
Sure.
We're gonna have our washer start with the right, well, what do we do first? Yes, we just did the thing, we have to do wudu, right? So we do the right hand first. So we'll uncover. You can just take it. We'll uncover the arm. As long as her private parts are not showing, it's okay if the arms and the legs and the hands and feet are showing. We just want to make sure the private parts are covered for the man and the woman. So we're gonna wash her hand, her right hand 3 times, and then we're gonna wash her left hand 3 times. And then after that is the mouth, right? We don't want to put any type of water inside of the body. So we're gonna take a clean towel and we're gonna wring it out, and then we're going to wipe the mouth. Sometimes there's dry spittle, thank you, that's around the lips. So we want to gently wipe that. And then if we have to clean the towel again to wipe it again, but we're gonna do it 3 times, because that's what we do with ourselves, right, 3 times? And then the next is what? The nose? So we're gonna get a fresh towel, or put the towel in water, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna wash each nostril 3 times. We're gonna dab it because we don't want any moisture getting in the body. So at this point, we're going to do the face. We just wash the face. Three times. And after we do the face, we do the arms from the wrist to the elbow.
Not the head and neck.
No, after we do the wrist to the elbow, then we do the head and neck
Okay.
and the ears. So we do the wrist to the elbow 3 times on each side. And we never know what to expect when a person reaches this part of their life. They may have been sick and the body may have expanded, or it may have gotten smaller. So you just always want to be ready for whatever you might see and just realize it's part of the natural process.
Who's holding, somebody holding the head, or you want to get it?
We usually have a
Neck.
neck holder of some sort, I don't know what it's called, that keeps the neck steady because we don't want the neck flopping around or doing anything that's gonna cause pain. So someone will hold the head, and you wanna come and wash your face 3 times. Did we do her face already?
Yes.
Okay,
Where's
so
the
after,
nose?
behind you. So after we do the arms, then we do the head, the ear, and behind the neck.
Put any shampoo or anything on there? That's what goes on. Shampoo is what goes on. Okay.
Okay, so, we're gonna,
Oh, we don't need to use it.
no, so we're just gonna do it with the towel. And somebody's gonna hold the head so that it's not flopping around. So we're gonna wipe the head, like we wipe over our head 3 times. And then we wipe behind the neck, or we wipe the ears, each ear 3 times. She has really tiny ears, you can't see them. And then we're gonna do behind the neck 3 times, or around the neck. And the last thing we're gonna do are her feet 3 times. Now, while somebody's down there doing the feet, we have some cotton. I like to use the cotton that comes in sheets. You will see it in hospitals, not cotton balls, but when you have a sheet of cotton, that can serve a multitude of purposes, whereas cotton balls will not. So we're gonna take this cotton and we're gonna make little pieces, tiny balls, not too tiny. We're gonna put them in each opening for the nostril. And that's so that as the process goes on, it keeps the water out. But we want enough so that it hangs out of the nose so that we can easily take it out. Also, we're gonna do the same with the ears. We're gonna put a piece of cotton in each ear to keep water out. Okay, now we're ready to do the washing. Everything goes from right to left. So we're gonna start on the right side of her body with a clean towel and clean water. So there's always a refresh of the water that's going on. So she's gonna start with her shoulder. And then she's already washed the arm. She's gonna go down that half of her body, all the way down, all the way on the front. Okay, and we're going to continue to do that all the way down. And then what we're gonna do is this, so that she can get the back side. The 2 that are standing on this side, we'll take and we'll put our hands underneath. And we will grab the hip and the thigh on one end. And the person at the top will grab the shoulder and the breast area. No. And then we'll pull the body towards us gently. And the person that's standing at her head is gonna hold her head to keep it from wobbling. And they're gonna wash the back side like they did the front side. So once that is done, she's gonna take the hose with the clear water and rinse the front side, the back side, and the front side. Okay, and then once that's done, we're gonna flip over. She's gonna go to the other side of the table and do the same thing. So the people that are on this side of the table, this is gonna be held up so she can work underneath there to protect the modesty, and she can feel with her hands, the body with her hands. And because this is hanging down, nobody can see, it keeps the modesty. So she's gonna do the same thing on that side. And she's gonna rinse the front. And then we're going to reach over and hold her. And what I like to do, because again, we want to treat her like she's alive, right? When the top cover gets dirty, or real soppy wet, we're gonna take it and throw it away and replace it with a dry one. We don't reuse the covers. Now, in some cases, some people just use, I'll ask people to bring old sheets from home or to save old sheets. But in some cases, a towel is just used to cover like that, and we work around the towel. So whatever you need to do to make this work, that's what you do, okay? So now that we have her, let's say we've washed her 3 times, the last thing we're gonna do is shampoo her hair. So whatever type of, what we typically use is liquid Castile soap. And Castile soap is pure. So that's why I like to use the liquid Castile soap. With the Castile soap, and with regard to the shampoo, you can use the Castile soap or shampoo, their favorite shampoo if you want. But I don't like using bar soap because bar soap can hold germs. And then you don't use the whole bar soap or even the piece of the bar soap. So I don't buy bar soap at all. When I managed a funeral home, my preference was liquid soap. And that way you don't have to worry about the soap becoming contaminated because it's just going to be rinsed away. So we're going to wash your head. And in the style of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when his daughter died, he had instructed the believers to put her hair in 3 plaits. So in cases where we can, we'll take her hair and put it in 3 plaits. If the hair is not long enough to put it in 3 distinct plaits, I've had friends that just take and grab the hair wherever they can and put 3 in it just for symbolic purposes. Or if there's no hair, mashallah, Allah is merciful. Throughout all of this, we have to remember that Allah is merciful. He's merciful on this person who no longer has life in their body. He's also merciful towards us in helping her to her next phase of life.
Like Dr. Dale.
Yeah, to her next phase, to help her get into the paradise, inshallah. So now that she is clean, we're going to take and dry her body. So we're going to do that. We replace this wet towel with a dry cover. And we're going to take the cloth, and the person responsible is going to dry her off and just pat her body. And we're going to do the same thing that we did before. Oh, and all the time we're doing this, Allahu Akbar, somebody might recite Surah Yasin. Or if we don't have anyone that knows how to read the Arabic from the Quran, oftentimes we'll get someone who can read to sit there and read the Quran throughout this whole process. Sometimes we'll play it on a recorder or in these days on our phones while this is being done. So the only talk that we have is with regard to what's happening here. Sister, we have finished washing you now, and now we're going to put on your last garments. We are going to have to move you to the next table, and in doing that, it can be a process that's easy. It can be a process that might be a little difficult. Let's say the person has some bulk to them, some weight. If you're using a state-of-the-art funeral home, they have these hooks that come down from the ceiling, and you can roll the body over and place it on top of this plastic tray, attach the hook to the tray, and then you use a lever, and it'll lift the body up and take it to the table. Sometimes you may not have that. I've done this process in hospitals while the body still had warmth in it. I've done it in a home where the person was on hospice, and we did it in her hospital bed. Ideally, the best place is in a funeral home if you have that option. If not, you make do with what you have. And remember, Allah is always merciful. 15 minutes. Okay, so what we're going to do, you're just going to take the blood. So what we're going to do, since sister is pretty light, Sister has some arm issues. So, we have to be mindful of that. Not only that, and I'm glad someone gifted us with this, and I am so thankful for that. So, what I like about this mannequin that they gifted us with is that the mannequin shows the legs that the body, the position the legs might be in sometimes. They might be straight. They might be bent. The arm might be bent. I'm sorry, sister. The arm might be bent. So we're gonna work with it. We're not gonna straighten it out because that could hurt, right? If she were alive. We're not gonna straighten out the leg. That might hurt. Now, over the process of warming her up and everything, the limbs might straighten out. But if they don't, we're gonna work with them just as they are. Okay, so from this point, sister's laying here. We still have her covered to protect her modesty. And we can take the opening that we made for the shirt or the dress, and we roll it down. Okay, and then under the cover, we can remove the modesty cover. Okay? And in Islam, we try to do everything in the best way. So I want this shroud to look the best it possibly can look. So we're going to take the left side and we're going to wrap it around her body. Something's missing. Something missing? No. We're going to wrap it around her body and we're going to wrap it as tight as we can. If the leg is bent, we're going to leave the leg bent. If it's bent more than that, we're going to leave it wherever it is. If the arm's bent, we're going to leave them where they are. Let's say there's movement in the arm, so the arm is bent like this. If we can easily take the arms and position them like this in the prayer position, then that's what we do. If not, we leave them down at their side. Then the next thing we're going to do is take the right side and we put that over and we wrap it. Okay, then pardon?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean, I thought something was missing.
Okay, so then we're going to take this next cloth that's on your diagram. My email address is on the, it was shown on the flyer. Some of you may have received that. If there's any questions you have, please send me an email. So after we wrap the left side, we're going to come over and we're going to wrap the right side. And we're going to make that tight. And we're going to tuck it over. Then the next part is the breast wrapper. So we're going to take this part. We're going to wrap it over. Now the man only has 3 parts. The shirt, the winding cloth, and this one. But the woman has the extra part. And then we're going to do the same with this one. We're going to wrap it over and make sure it's nice and secure. Now, in the Islamic faith, we do not look at the body after it's deceased unless it's what the family wants to do. So at this point, what we'll do is we will go ahead and we'll wrap everything except her face. So we're going to take this wrap and put it over and tuck it under. And we're going to take the other side, the right side. Can we get 3 strips? And we're going to tuck that over. So Sakina, Sister Sakina, would you mind going to the feet and securing the bottom of her feet? And while they're doing that, I'm going to take sister's last scarf. We're going to lift her head easily. Actually, we should have had this on the table already, so that would have made it easier. So we forgot. And because we forgot, it just makes it a little bit difficult, but only a little bit difficult. So we put the scarf on her head, and she has some family that wants to see her. So we'll make this look as neat as possible. And also, there are two more ties. One we're going to put in the center at her waist. These should already be laying on the table, by the way, underneath, so that you don't have to move her to do this. So we're going to tie this at about the waist. And I like to use a nice bow. I like to use a nice bow because we want everything to always be the best. And I know that there are some of my sisters in California who always laughed at me because I always had to do things nicely and neatly. But they can keep laughing if they want to. Enjoy yourselves.
Stay on topic, sister.
I'm on topic. So,
Her family wants to come see us.
so then we will just make her look as aesthetically pleasing as possible. And we'll leave the room and let them, before we do that, we want to close out, right?
Close the session out with prayer.
Yes. Since for the most part, we're done with the exception of closing her and putting her in the transportation box, because the body is not generally buried in a casket, it's put in the ground. Sometimes it's put inside of a cement liner, and sometimes it's put right in the dirt. It just depends upon the laws that we're dealing with. But since we're finished, we want to make another dua. And Sister Sakina, would you please lead us in dua?
Yes. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Oh Allah, forgive sister and have mercy on her. Give her peace and pardon her, and grant her an honorable reception, and expand her entry point. Cleanse her with water, snow, and hail. Purify her of sin as a white robe is purified of filth. Exchange her home for a better home, her family for a better family, and her spouse for a better spouse. Have mercy on her. Grant her the paradise and protect her from the punishment of the fire.
Amen. All right, and for us, sisters, thank you. Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Oh Allah, we thank you for giving us the honor of preparing sister's burial process for her janazah. Anything that we did wrong, we ask that you forgive us. Anything that we did right is because you guided us that way. Thank you for the blessings. Remember, what happens here stays here. Please share this beautiful smile that's on sister's face if you choose to do so. And when you get home, whenever you get home, you don't have to go straight home, but whenever you get home, remember to make ghusl for yourselves. Thank you for your service. Fi sabilillah. Ameen.
Amen.
One thing that I didn't tell you, sometimes the mouth of the deceased is open. And they say, and it does happen, that if you pull the big toe, it'll help the mouth, or the eyes might be open. It'll help them to close if you pull on the big toe. If it doesn't, and the mouth is still open, what we do is take a piece of the shroud fabric, we gently close the mouth, because sometimes it's loose, and we put a tie around it to close it, and we tie it at the top. And we leave it that way as we're going through the process. And then when we're done, we'll take it off, and usually it'll stay closed. If the eyes are open, we gently close the eyes if they haven't closed on their own. Sometimes they'll do it on their own. So we'll leave the room, we'll let the family come in and make their du'as, and we will ask them to not physically touch her, because if any soil gets on her, the ghusl will have to be repeated. But we give them the sanctity of spending time, and then we will come back and we'll take the rest of the scarf and completely cover her face.
You didn't mention the camphor or the oil.
In the last, thank you. You're supposed to do this, say that while we were doing this. So in the last wash, that's just a little bit of humor. In the last wash or rinse, what we do is we take camphor. I like to use liquid camphor, but what's been available lately is powdered camphor. So we want to take that and put it in the body, in the water, the last rinse water, and pour that water over the body. And not only that, once her body is dry, one of the things that camphor does, if there's any blood on the body, it will cause it to coagulate. That's one benefit for camphor. Another one is that it keeps the bugs off of the body prematurely. So, and then after the body is dry, we want to take some oil, some scented oil, and put it on the body, or we can even put it on the shroud. Sometimes people will use that person's favorite oil or whatever, but we want to do that. It'll leave a nice smell. And then we'll take and tie this tie. Now, when the body is placed in the ground, the brothers that usually will place the body in the ground, they will take these straps that we've tied and they'll loosen them. So from this point, Sister is ready to go into the box that's used to transport her to the cemetery. And then the brothers take her from the cemetery, from that box, and they lift her gently and lower her into the grave. They'll turn her on her right side, facing the Qibla. And they'll prop her head up, or his head up, on a rock so that it holds the neck isn't flopping. And in a Muslim cemetery, and some non-Muslim cemeteries have Muslim Islamic sections, they'll have the graves dug so that the body can be placed in the direction of the Qibla. Thank you so much for your time. Any questions that you have, you can send them to me at the email that's on the flyer, and that's janazahinstructions.by.najiyyah@gmail.com. Again, janazahinstruction.by.najiyyah@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. And we have one other bit of information for you, and that is from Brother Jamil. Brother Jamil is an insurance agent. One of the things that happens in our community is a lot of us, when we die, we do not leave money for burial. There would be nothing wrong with having an insurance policy for burial. I invited Brother Jamal here because I have the product that his company sells, and I really like the product. So if he can just give you a few words, and he can leave his phone number for you to contact him as well. Thank you. Do we still have some time to record?
You have any material? Okay.
Okay, so how's it going, everyone today? I appreciate you guys for doing the demonstration and showing us the proper way of doing Islamic and Muslim burial. It's definitely opened my eyes to a lot of what goes on here, as we're accustomed to things here in the Western world as far as burials and the actual transition of bodies, leaving and to go on to, just place of rest. So some things I wanted to share with you guys today, as Sister Abdullah alluded to, is taking care of your final expenses and burial services for your family in that matter. Nowadays, what we're presented with, especially within the last recent years, the pandemic, it's been a lot of families that weren't able to afford those services. And we continue to see it nowadays, whether it's fundraising on the street, people using different funding services to pay for funeral services, or maybe reaching out to family members to help afford these things. So we're presented with a lot of these issues, but not a lot of solutions for them. So what I'm here to demonstrate to you guys today is just to speak on a few points. Excuse me. Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me better? Okay, gotcha. All right. So just to reiterate, speaking on a few points as far as how my program helps out with the final expense industry. Just for starters, I like to speak about the foundation of the difference between insurance and final expense. So insurance, by definition, as you all may know, is for your family. So after you've gone, they can continue to take care of the financial obligations that they may have themselves. Now, when it comes to final expense, the final expense industry is meant for funeral services, just like the one that Miss Abdullah and the team demonstrated today to you guys. That industry is for those services. So you wouldn't want to, in that case, necessarily use your insurance for the final expense, because you'll be kind of dipping into the funds that were allocated for your family. So the program that we have here, it is Legacy Assurance. You guys may have heard of it. We have a lot of commercials and advertisements and marketing across the city of Houston. We actually operate in 48 states here in this country. We're based out in Thomasville, Georgia. I am an independent agent, as Sister Abdullah mentioned, and I represent that product here in the Houston area. So we help your family out in 3 ways. Now, one of the ways I'm not going to cover, only reason being for this setting, when it comes to the Islamic burial and Muslim burials, we don't require things like a casket or an urn and things of that nature. That would be more for Western tradition. So I will cover the 2 additional ways, and along with some other details as far as how we help your family out. So you guys may be familiar with going through a funeral process and maybe selecting a family member to head out those responsibilities as far as getting paperwork together, negotiating with funeral homes, maybe contacting other family members to get paperwork and stuff together. That can be a very stressful and emotional process at that time. And with Legacy Assurance, we do understand that can be a burden on the family. So we actually provide you guys a team of negotiators. I think we call it our wish team. I have some brochures and things I can pass out to those that are here. We call that our wish team, and they actually take the time to negotiate with those funeral homes on your family's behalf. So you guys don't have to go in and negotiate and haggle with prices when it comes down to the final cost of your services. So what this does for your family, it allows you guys to have a lot more time for mourning, staying together, and taking care of loved ones that may be suffering in that process when that time does come. So from my experience in this industry, I noticed 2 things that usually happen at a funeral services. There's a emotional burden, and then there's also the financial burden as well. So when it comes down to the emotional time, as we all may know, it's just time that'll take care of that. You know, being with family, staying together, and actually going through that process. Now, as Sister Abdullah mentioned earlier, there is the financial part of things that are a little bit more urgent during that time. And what we see nowadays, most of the times families aren't prepared when that time does come. So the program that we have here, we actually help you guys not only plan the services out, but we also help you fund it as well. And that gives your family a lot more peace of mind. Sister Abdullah, how am I looking on time?
You are good.
Okay. All right. So continuing there, I mentioned there was 3 ways that we help your family out. 2 of them I'll speak about today in addition to some other details. First one that I just mentioned was the fact that we provide you guys with a WISH team, WISH, WISH team, and they talk to the funeral home on your family's behalf. Now, the second way that we help your family out in this scenario concerning the Islamic and Muslim burials, we actually negotiate with those funeral homes. And Sister Abdullah mentioned a few of them that are here in the Houston area. I'm sure there's hundreds of more across the country, but whichever state you guys are living in or plan to live in, we talk to those funeral homes to negotiate you guys 30 to 80% off of the entire funeral services. So this puts you guys at a position of power when it comes to getting the best cost for your services. So your family doesn't have to end up paying more than they should for things like that. And we see things with inflation nowadays, whether it's food, gas, cost of living, same reflects in the insurance industry. So prices at the funerals homes usually go up about every 2 years. And most of the times families aren't prepared for that financially. So we help you guys curb those costs and save a lot more on the services when that time does come. Now, that's the second way we help you guys out. Just kind of to put this all in a package for you, running a little short on time. We actually, we don't require any death certificates. So that's a real big emphasis there. So for us, for Legacy Assurance, they contact the funeral home for your family's behalf and confirm that the insured is deceased. Now, after that happens, they get all the services in order, prepare the documents and paperwork for the family, so you guys don't have to worry about going through that process and waiting on a death certificate in order to get the funding for your services. So this is something that we've noticed out here in the industry and just in the entire final expense market. It creates a hassle for families that are able to afford funding when they have to wait on that document, the death certificate, in order to pay. So for Legacy Assurance and our company here, we don't require any death certificates in order to pay out claims to your beneficiaries. So whoever that may be, I'm pretty sure you guys have maybe had conversations with your family. If not, I highly encourage it. But whoever your beneficiary may be, they'll receive those funds within 24 to 48 hours after you've passed away. So therefore, they can take care of those services a lot quicker. Now, in addition to that, we cover anybody with any condition. So it doesn't matter if you have critical illnesses, maybe in hospice care, or even incarcerated. So we have a very pretty straight, simple process when it comes to covering you guys for these benefits. We don't require any medical exams. We're not sending you to the doctor or sending the doctor to your house. It's pretty straightforward there, and I have a lot more information that I can share with you on that. And outside of the whole final expense aspect of things, you guys actually have more control and flexibility when it comes to putting your plan together and positioning yourself to take care of these financial obligations for your family when that time does come. So just to kind of wrap up here, it's a very important topic, very important conversation to be had. I know this isn't something that we think about every day. You know, it's just more of a positive state of mind, but it's inevitable. We all know that that day will come, and the only question is your family prepared? So it's you either make the decision today or your family's forced to make the decision later on down the line. So you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row and you're prepared to take on that risk for your family when that time does come. So that's pretty much my speech there, just kind of highlighting some of the things about the product. If you guys would like to contact me, and we could possibly set up a better day and time so I can go into a lot more detail and figure out how we're going to be able to best help your family out. And I have some brochures over there that I can pass out, and also have some business cards with me as well, so you'll be able to contact me.
And can you share your phone number, please?
Oh, yes, ma'am. Thanks for reminding me of that. Phone number 832-994-1633. And again, the company that I represent is Legacy Assurance. That's LEGACYASSURANCE. Legacy Assurance.
And your phone number again?
832, phone number again, 832-994-1633. And my name is Jamil McDonald. Thank you, Sister Abdullah.
And thank you. Thank you, Brother Jamil, for coming and providing us with this information. I too am a licensed insurance agent. I have represented a couple of companies, and the product that Brother Jamil's company offers is one of the best that I've seen. I've had experience even prior to becoming an insurance agent, a licensed insurance agent myself. So I do like his product. One of the things that I want to share with you, there was a question that was asked about whether or not the body is placed in the cooler after this process is done. Generally, after this process is done, the body goes straight into the hearse and is taken to either the masjid for prayer and then to the cemetery, or taken straight to the cemetery for prayer. This process is unlike the typical Christian funeral that a lot of us might be familiar with. The prayer that we do in congregation can be at the masjid or it can be at the cemetery. It is quick. There's generally a handout given so that everybody present can join in. And if you don't, you just pray the way that you would pray for the deceased. But the process is there's no eulogy. There's nothing like that. Now, for us Americans born in America, some of us have the traditions of having a repast and things like that, a gathering with the family. That's completely up to the family if you want to do that as your tradition dictates, okay? But in as far as the Islamic janazah or burial process, once the body is washed and shrouded, once the prayer is done in congregation, either at the masjid and at the cemetery or just at the cemetery, then the process is over. I'm going to see if I can find any other questions. Were there any other questions?
Just one, different areas, since we're doing this online, different areas will allow different things. When I did the janazah for my father-in-law in Philadelphia, after we washed the body, they did allow us to open the shroud and have a kind of viewing in a separate room. This was before we went to the cemetery, but they did allow for that. So it's something you may have to advocate for. But as far as the Houston area, I am not aware of a facility that would allow for that.
Well, I worked at ISGH. I managed the ISGH funeral home for a number of years. And it was based upon what the family's wishes were with regard to viewing the body after the washing and shrouding process. So generally, we will allow it, but after that body has been completely shrouded and taken out of the masjid, it is not customary that we will undo the shroud and allow viewing. It has to be done right after the burial and before we cover the body. After that, that's it. So it's based upon the tradition that's set and honored in the area where you are. The Quran tells us that we live according to the laws of the land that govern us. So we must always adhere to that, and if you don't like it, then establish something for yourselves. Establish your own Islamic funeral home, and then make the rules how you would want to make them, as long as they coincide with the basic rules of Al-Islam. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Brother Jamil, for sharing with us. As I said, I do have his product. I stand behind it. The going rate in Houston, Texas right now for funerals is approximately, it went up. Something like, it's less than $20,000. It's about $15,000. No, it isn't. It's about $6,000 or $7,000. And that's from being picked up, gone through the washing and shrouding, and taken to the cemetery. It's been a couple of years since I've worked there, so you can call one of the funeral homes, the Muslim funeral homes, and compare the cost to the traditional funeral homes. Thank you again for your time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So were you saying that, what is the cost?
You wanted me to show the references?
Yes.
Ahmed,
We're going to show some references, Quranic references, as well as hadith references for burials. Brother Imam Ahmed is going to put them on the screen if you'd like to take a copy of those, or you can send me an email and I'll be happy to send them to you. This is taking place at masjidwdm Muhammad in Houston, Texas. If you didn't get any of that information, you can certainly call or email this masjid and they'll get the information to me or Brother Jamil, and we'll get back to you, inshallah. Thank you again. Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah. All right.
These casket prices, are they with
I
the,
can't take it off the
are they with the hardwood caskets that we have?
I'm sorry.
What?
The casket prices, right?
No, we don't have to worry about casket prices. He just has an insurance
Okay.
that will cover the cost of burial, whatever amount you want.
Final message, we will have a new Put in Neighbor Back in the Hood program, December 17th. From 12 noon to 3 p.m. You can check us out on our Facebook or WhatsApp, sharing for more information. That information will go out today, hopefully. But again, it'll be our Putting a Neighbor Back in the Hood program at Sunnyside Prayer Garden, where it's corner of Brinkley and Edgar Street in Sunnyside. There'll be free food, there'll be a gift giveaway, there'll be gardening, so it's hopefully it's a great time for us to fellowship with our community and our neighbors there in Sunnyside. So please come out and support it, inshallah. Again, that'll be December 17th. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Take it back from you.
All right.
Yeah,